time for Nerdgasm.
Hey, what's up, Nerdgasm fans? Jerry here, aka Barnacles. Now, you guys know recently I attended an event in Portland, Oregon called Retro Gaming Expo. I was invited down there by Metal Jesus Rocks and Drunk Master Paul, and I had a blast. It was basically just a huge convention where everybody was selling and peddling their old legacy systems and games and old arcade stuff and collectibles. It was awesome. Well, one of the booths that I came across when I was down there was Hyperkin, and they were advertising this product right here. This is the RetroN 5. And what really caught my eye playing with it is this is a great product because it solves a problem for collectors. And that is, it's fun to collect consoles and everything, but connecting them to a TV can be a pain in the ass, and the space requirement is pretty huge. Plus all the AV switching equipment and all that stuff that you need. It's a nightmare. The cool thing about the RetroN 5 is it plays NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, Super Famicom, and Game Boy games all on one console. And the best part is, it even allows you to use the original controllers, which I think is a huge perk. Time to bust out my old cartridges. All right, so here we have the console. You guys can see the packaging is actually really, really nice on this. They even did like a little angled thing here so you can still see the Hyperkin logo when they're all stacked and everything. I like to look at a product's packaging. Sometimes it's a good indicator of the quality of the stuff inside.
Not always, though.
I like that they have a lot of information on the box talking about how it has a graphical user interface and multiple system compatibility, wireless controller, audio video enhancements. I like that they have a lot of information on the box. I mean, written on the back, they talk about all the consoles it supports, what's included with it. It even comes with an HDMI cable. You have no idea how many things I've bought that are HDMI and don't come with a cable. Come on, it's like 3 cents, put it in the box. Thank you, Hyperkin. All right, well, obviously the best way to test something like this is just to get it out of the box, plug it in, and have some fun. So let's do that. Oh, bat knife. I love that magnetic holder under the desk.
Bat knife.
No, bat knife, bat knife. This thing's taped all over the place. Bat knife.
Okay, so now flip that out. And then there's one, flip that out. Flip that out. Wow, this thing opens up like that. That's an interesting box. All right, everything inside is wrapped in plastic. That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull out the console. It's actually got a little bit of weight to it. You can see it's actually a pretty good looking console. I mean, purple's not really my color, but you know, I don't really care. This is more function over form. You can see on the side here, it has the connector for the SNES controller, the NES controller, and the Genesis controller. And there's one on each side, so you can plug one controller into each side. And it's even got a little holder back here to put the wireless controller into. First thing I noticed is it's a pretty big controller. I wasn't expecting it to be this big. It's got a USB port in the front of it. It looks like it's to charge it. It does not have replaceable batteries that I can tell here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has a replaceable battery, so you basically just charge it over USB. And according to the box, it has a 30-foot range, which is pretty much more than you need unless you're playing this like in a movie theater from the back row. Now, the controller has what appears to be an analog hat, but you can hear the clicks when you're moving it. It's basically an 8-way directional D-pad. It's kind of weird feeling. I'm curious to see how it's going to feel playing games with that over just a conventional D-pad. But I guess it doesn't really matter because you can use the regular controller if you want, which is what I prefer. Now, the controller feels solid. It's a rock solid controller. It doesn't feel cheap. The weight on it's not too bad. It does have a little bit of weight to it. Lots of buttons. That's a button, that's a button, that's a button, that's a button, that's a button. You got 6 buttons there. You got 2 bumpers up on top. So you got buttons for days to do everything you want. It also looks like you have some kind of a charge level indicator, I'm thinking, down here. And when you're not gaming, the controller just sits right in there. All right, it looks like we have a manual here that we can read through to figure out how everything works. Whatever. And the most important thing, stickers. Because you gotta let everybody know when you're driving around in your car that you have a Hyperkin system. Or put them on your fridge to piss off your wife. She hates it when I put stuff on the fridge like this. Okay, we got some cables here. Looks like we have an HDMI cable. Thank you again, Hyperkin. HDMI cable is muy appreciated. And it looks like it's about 6 foot in length. All right, we have another cable here. Let's see what we got. Ooh, okay, so this is the USB mini cable right here. And this guy looks like it's about a 10 or a 12 footer. You guys like how I just estimate everything? I could just look on the box, but no, it's about a 10 footer. And this is for your controller. So you can plug that into your controller right there to charge it. And on the back of the unit, there is a USB plug. So you can actually be charging your controller.
Like a so.
Okay, and last but not least, we have the AC brick here that's set up for 110 power, basically US power. But it also comes with a whole bag of adapters. So all you guys in Australia, actually wait, no, that's not Australia. Australia, see, I'm starting to learn my power connectors from what you guys say down in the comments. And then you've got Imagination Land. Actually, I don't know where that one's from. And that one, which
It has a plastic prong?
okay, we are done with the box.
And the phone.
Okay, let's take a little bit closer look at the console here. Looking at it from the front here, you have a power button, and it's got a very positive affirming click here. And then you got the port here for your Game Boy Advanced to plug in those games. I think I have some Game Boy games. I might have to go find them now. On the back here, you have an SD card slot. We'll figure out what that's used for in a little bit. You've got your HDMI out, a USB out, and a power connector. So it's a very, very straightforward console. I like how portable it is because it just plugs in with one cable with HDMI and it just has the AC adapter. It's a very easy console to just throw in a backpack and take with you somewhere, and you can expect it to work on modern technology. Now, don't get me wrong, the original consoles are awesome, and I plan to collect them, but to connect this stuff up to a modern television through HDMI, you need to get an upscaler, and sometimes you have to get like some rewiring and stuff done. It can be a complicated process to get them to work, and then once you do, I've seen varying results watching other YouTube videos on how good the video quality is. Anytime you're constantly switching from analog to digital, back to analog, back to digital, you're losing a little bit of quality. Now, one thing I did notice that's not that big of a deal, but there are a lot of little smudges and little scratches in the plastic on the top of the unit. It almost looks like this unit's been used before. Maybe it's like a return or a refurbished unit. So I was a little bit put off by that because it did come in a brand new box and it looked like a brand new unit and it did not look like a refurb. The rest of the unit, however, looks new. But then again, I think it's probably just because this is so freaking glossy. And it looks like most of it can be cleaned off, but not all of it. And then on the front, you can see it says RetroN 5, and then it has a picture of each one of the consoles so that you can see which one is actually currently powered on and playing. All right, well, let's hook this bad boy up and give it a try. All right, guys, I got the console plugged in. We have it connected with HDMI and power, and I also plugged in the USB cable to the controller because the controller was completely dead out of the box. It wouldn't even power on. So I'm going to be charging the controller while I do the review, but once it's charged up, you can just unplug it and it's wireless. All right, so to start up the console, you just hit the power button here on the front, but you have to hold it for what seems like about 5 seconds, almost like an ATX power supply on a computer. I'm not really sure why they opted to make it so laggy to start up the console, because I'm used to like Nintendo, just push the button, turn it off, but I'm sure they have their reasons. All right, so we're booted up. It looks like the controller's working. We got a quick start screen. It says there's no cartridge inserted, obviously. And it says if your TV has a game mode setting, ensure that you have this enabled while using the RetroN 5. Game mode on the TV, and I do have it enabled on all these, basically disables all the internal processing so you don't get lag and you don't get like the smooth motion and all that stuff. All right, so the in-game menu options that you have for basically bringing up the menu while you're playing is to hold down and press start. And it's funny because it's the same combination for every controller, but they still explicitly list it for all 3 of the consoles. Well, 4 if you count Famicom. Kind of interesting though, they missed Game Boy Advanced. Ooh, sound. All right, so inside of settings, it looks like you have image filters. So the image filters allow you to basically make it look better than it did on the original console. It'll do interpolation, it'll create new lines to double the resolution, and stuff like that. Depending on the game, you might get varying results, but they let you enable and disable them, so that's pretty cool. So I happen to know from using emulators that I really, really like the Super Eagle, so we're gonna try that out first. You can also enable and disable scan lines. If you guys remember playing on CRT televisions, you know the little scan lines? Yeah, that's pretty cool. You can also change the aspect ratio, so you can stretch it out if you want. Instead of 4:3, you want 16:9. Now granted, all your little sprites are gonna be a little on the hefty side, but it'll look good. And it even lets you adjust things like screen size. You can do audio enhancement like bass boost and treble boost. It's actually really cool. And just to let you guys know, this actually is using emulation. If you're no stranger to emulators on computers, you know that there's like SNES 9X, there's some of the NES emulators out there, and Genesis and Famicom emulators. And the thing with those emulators is you usually have to get them set up just right to work right. They sometimes conflict with your graphics hardware. Sometimes they're unstable and they crash. Well, the cool thing about this is they brought all the software emulation into a hardware emulation platform, and they went through and vetted it all to get the maximum compatibility. And they also allow for firmware updates and things like that through the SD card port. So this is nicer, so you don't have to deal with so many different pieces of software. And then of course you can plug the controllers into it, which gives you a big perk, because normally to use a regular NES controller, you'd have to get one that's converted to USB, plug it in, and then map all of the buttons and the keys through the emulator to get it to work with the games. I like that this is just a pull out of the box and go solution. All right, so let's start out with NES, because that's arguably one of my favorite consoles of all time, and my favorite game of all time, Legend of Zelda Gold Cart. So we just find the NES port. Looks like this is the NES port right here. Slide her in. Now, one thing I will note on this, and look, it did notice that it was imported. It said initial import of save data from cartridge complete. So one thing you'll notice though with this thing is it does grip the cartridges really hard. I'm not even sure how that happened, but I'm pretty sure it'll loosen up over time. But I'm gonna tell you right out of the box, it takes a lot of force to remove the cartridges. It doesn't look like it'll cause any damage to the cartridges or anything like that, but it's something to be conscious of. Okay, it says Legend of Zelda, here we go. That's a familiar sound. All right, so I went ahead and turned off the other screens so that we can just focus on the center screen without any distractions, but the sound is great. Let's see, register your name. Come on. Oh, not enough letters. All right, here we go. Now, it's a little weird having an 8-way D-pad, where you push at an angle and he goes down, you push the side angle, it goes up or over. So, it is a little bit weird using this controller to play a Nintendo game. As long as you're conscious of it, it's fine. But it is a little weird. I think we need a real Nintendo controller. Time to plug in the NES Advantage. Okay, all I did was plug in the controller. You can see it actually does work in the menus. Oh, much better. Oh wait, it's dangerous to go alone. We better go get our sword. Come on now. Come on, old timer.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. Take this, Link. Take it.
If you guys haven't seen the Dorkly video on this little scene, oh my god, go look up Dorkly on YouTube Zelda. It's hilarious. All right. Yeah, got some sword here. All right, let's go kill these guys. Oh, seriously? Whew, got all my hearts back. I'm a little out of practice here, guys. Ah! Come at me, bro. The controller seems really responsive. Okay, now it said down and start to open the menu. Okay, that worked. So I push down and press start so I can access the menu. That way you don't have to keep going back to the controller that came with it. You can actually use whatever controller you're using. Okay, so let's go ahead and check out some of the other filters. So let's try scale 2x. Okay, now you can see it's much more pixelated. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm not doing screen capture on this. I could, but I just want you guys to see the whole package deal here. It looks great though. It's very smooth too. Ah! I am dying. Okay, so down and start. Okay, back into the menu here. So if we go to filters, let's go ahead and turn the filters off. So no filters, and we're gonna enable scan lines so that it looks like an old school CRT television. That is a really convincing effect. Ooh, a bomb. Suck it, dude. Ah! I don't know, the scan lines, they're just nostalgic. Like, it definitely looks like you're playing on an old screen. Come here, Fairy, I need you, come here. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so down and start. Let's see what else we got here. So you can also save your game. So you've got multiple slots. So you can save up to, it looks like 9 different games. Okay, let's see, save state. What is that? Okay, so that just saved the state of the game. It also has a volume control, which I found was a little bit weird, because usually you'd control your volume with your television or your stereo. I don't know why you'd do it in-game. But who knows, maybe if you're streaming or something like that. Okay, and you can also go back to the game menu here. So we've got play game menu settings. If we go into game menu, you can also apply cheats. Unable to load cheats, SD card not inserted. Okay, so you have to store cheats on an SD card. That's interesting. Copy save to cart? What is that? Are you sure you want to copy the save game to your cartridge? It will overwrite your current save game on the cartridge and all existing games. So apparently if your cartridge supports saved games, it can actually save them to the cartridge. That's pretty cool actually. But the audio looks good, the graphics look good, the colors are very vibrant. It definitely feels like I'm playing on a console. It's just everything's pixel perfect. There's no noise in the image at all, which is what you'd expect on something like this that's going straight from digital to digital. There's no analog conversion. All right, so let's try another console. Let's go for Super NES here. Let's go ahead and grab, let's see, Super Mario. Here we go. Let's go ahead and try this. Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World. So we just find the SNES slot. Go ahead and insert it. Okay, it's loading. Now, when it says loading, what it's actually doing is dumping the ROM from the cartridge to the machine because it's using an emulator to run it. At the end of the day, it's not playing the game directly off the cartridge. But in my opinion, that in no way diminishes from the experience of physically putting your cartridge in to play a game. I think that's awesome. Also, I want to see what happens if we put multiple cartridges in the system. Okay, error, multiple cartridges inserted. So it doesn't like it when you have more than one cartridge inserted at a time. You can see it's loading again. Okay, save state complete. Super Mario All-Stars. So you can go select the various games. Now if you hold down and start, you open up your menu. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and re-enable. Let's do HQ2X, no scan lines. Oh, that made it look so much better. Super Nintendo is a really good candidate for these filters. Now, you notice something cool? I'm actually playing a Super Nintendo game using an NES controller. Now, granted, I'm a couple buttons short, so it's probably not ideal for playing a game like this, but it does actually work. No, come back! Oh, man. Looks great, though. Sounds great. Now, let's go ahead and pick up the other controller, this guy right here. Okay. Definitely feels a little bit more natural on an SNES. Now it's cool, all the buttons and everything sound like a Switch. Listen. Ah! I died. Kind of gives you a positive confirmation you're actually pushing something. Alright, well, let's be honest. I would rather play with a real Super Nintendo cartridge, so I'm gonna grab one. Okay, we're just gonna plug it into the side of the system. Now we have our original Nintendo cartridge. You can see it just works. You don't have to configure anything. I like that. Now this feels much more of an authentic experience. There's just no substitute to playing games like this without the original controller. Ah! So you can see it's just as easy as just plugging in the controller and it works. And all the controllers work on all the different consoles, which is cool. But granted, if you're using an NES controller, you might come up a couple buttons short. All right, well, let's give Sega Genesis a try. I've got Altered Beast, I've got Strider, and I've got Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, Sonic the Hedgehog has amazing soundtracks, so let's try that out. Put it in there. Oh, it said there was a cartridge power fault detected. It says, please remove the cartridge from your system before pressing the OK. All right. Man, that grip. Okay, let's try this again. Put it in there. Make sure it's good and straight. There we go. All right, well, it says unknown cartridge. Okay, that's a little weird. Let's try this again. Try again. Oh, there it is. Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega! Sega! I love this game. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a Sega Genesis controller, so I'm going to just play with the Super Nintendo controller. The audio sounds great, though. Runs very, very smooth. Honestly, couldn't even tell I'm not playing on a Genesis right now. Yeah. Yeah, no lag at all. Now, I've noticed in some emulators on PC, you will notice some lag during certain areas, so I'm pretty impressed with this overall. Okay, let me see if their controller works a little bit better on Genesis. I definitely notice a wireless lag. When you push the button to get Sonic to jump, there's a noticeable lag. On the physical wired controller, it's instant. Now, I just attribute that to being a wireless controller, but still, if you want a real experience with this, get the original controllers. All right, let's try one of the filters. Let's go ahead and put it on Super Eagle. with scan lines. That looks so cool. It literally looks like you're playing on an old CRT television. Yeah, in a game like this, the lag on the controller definitely hurts you. See, I'm struggling to get the timing right, but with this, it's much better. Yeah, just use a real wired controller in my opinion. Now, the other cool thing about this is that you can save your games on the system. You can save as many games you want, even if the game or cartridge doesn't support it. You can set it up to automatically load your save game next time you start, so you can quickly just shut your game off when you need to, unlike the old Nintendo games where you had to get to certain checkpoints and record codes and things like that. So I think those aspects of this make this a hugely important console for your collection if you're serious about retro gaming. Now, the really big selling points to me is, one, it's cheaper than collecting all of the consoles that it plays. Two, it gives you all of those additional features that we just talked about as far as saving and loading games and everything like that. And it plays your original cartridges, which are awesome. And the biggest bonus to this thing by far is that you can plug all of your original controllers into it, which I think is a huge win. You don't have to adapt them to USB. You don't have to do all the button mapping. You just plug it in and go and you're done. And you can even use your favorite console controllers with different platforms. So if you want to use a Genesis controller to play an SNES game, you can. If you want to use a Super Nintendo controller to play an NES game, you can. That's awesome. Now, some places where it falls short is the wireless controller. I'm not a big fan. I don't like the micro switch D-pad personally. Your mileage may vary. The controller itself is very comfortable to hold, surprisingly, and I do like that it has all the buttons and bumpers on it, but there is a noticeable lag. When I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog, I noticed that there was a delay on the jump button that was significantly greater than the lag on a wired controller. Now, that lag even existed with the USB cable attached, so I'm thinking the USB cable is just for charging. It's not actually carrying a data signal when it's plugged in. So for that reason, my recommendation is use the old controllers if you use this system. It's pretty easy to get your hands on some old NES and Super Nintendo controllers and everything. Just check eBay or Craigslist, but you might be missing a kidney if you meet up with the wrong person. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any of my Game Boy Advanced games. They're buried somewhere deep in the house, but I am going to dig them out. But I have seen them played on this console, and they do look great, and it works great. Well, guys, I have to say I am genuinely impressed overall with the Hyperkin RetroN 5. If you guys would like to get your own RetroN 5, I have a link down in the video description. When you use that link to purchase one of these, you're helping out the channel, and you're getting something that's really cool. Also, if you guys have any questions for stuff that I didn't answer, or you just want to ask me a question in general, go ahead and hit me up. I'm at Barnacles on Twitter. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Also, if you guys have any old retro gaming stuff sitting around collecting dust, like portables or carts to old systems and things like that, I'm really starting to get the collector bug. So if you guys want to donate them to the channel, my P.O. box is in the video description. Or if you just want to tell me about your collection or send me pictures, email me, barnaclesmancave@gmail.com. It's also in the video description of all my videos. I'd love to see a picture of your awesome collections. Also, if you guys send me anything, I'll make sure that it gets an Instagram photo up and on my Twitter feed so that everybody can see that you sent it. And last but not least, if you guys made it to the end of this video, go ahead and hashtag retro gaming bug, because that's what I got. Alright guys, well I got a little bit more retro gaming to do today and another video on the way, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please take a moment and subscribe to my channel, it helps me a lot. Also come over to Twitter, I'm at Barnacles. I'm a real social guy. Also, if you have a couple of minutes, check out some of these many other videos. I made them myself.